There was an off-duty Inglewood police officer who was working as part of Biggie's security team that night.
Okay.
He was there the previous night at the award show at the Shrine Auditorium down by USC, and then they had him come back again for this one last night with Biggie at this party with Bad Boy. And so he's in the third follow vehicle with the head of Bad Boy Security, the head of the label's security, and when the shooting happens up the street from them, because they were kind of far back still when it happened. But they saw the shooting happen, they saw the shooter in the Impala take off around the corner, and he, for some reason, hesitated to give chase. And then finally did give chase, but they lost him. But he said something in his interview with detectives a couple of days later. They were like, "Why didn't you chase him?" He said, "Well, I don't want to get into no shit. I don't want to get involved in that."
I'm playing it off like shit. I'm not gonna chase nobody. Hell, I'm not about to get into no shit. And actually, I didn't. When he took off, he was gone. That's why I knew it had to be an SS Impala. It had to be an SS Impala. When they get to the hospital, they pull him in. I pull up and let the guy call out. I pull around the side and I sit in the car. Here comes LA. I guess as LA comes up, then the sheriff come up, and they all out there ranting and raving. I got out the car, gave Kenny the keys, say, "Look, I'm out of here, man. I don't need this."
Did you decide you were gonna contact us, or you just gonna lie and wait?
No, I was gonna let them contact me. So they're gonna contact me. I know, they're gonna contact me. Yeah.
Didn't you feel that you had some responsibility then?
Yeah, but like I said, I knew this. You know what? When I got to think about, oh shit, man, damn, fucking work when I work, man, they're gonna kill my ass. I'm gonna get bites and days for this. I just say, hey, they'll contact me.
Can you have any idea why wouldn't he want to?
Why he didn't want to cooperate?
Just thinking like a beat cop.
Okay, so a lot of agencies restrict their sworn officers in the off-duty work that they're able to perform. My agency, LAPD, allows you to work off-duty with approval based upon the type of work, but they don't let you work in uniform, right? That's one of our requirements. Unless you're working a movie job, you're out, in a motorcycle cruising around getting the movie shot done on the street. Absent that, my officers can work almost anything as long as it's not a conflict of interest with what we do as a living. So working in a criminal enterprise would be a bad thing and would not be approved. So you have to have prior approval for it.
Right.
Working in a bank is not approved. Working at a bar where they serve alcohol is not approved. Working at a strip club is not approved. Those are more of like, because we enforce those laws, we don't want to have a conflict of interest where we work one night at a bar and then the next night we're assisting alcohol beverage control and going in and doing enforcement action. So the city's pretty particular what you can work. And then if you don't fall in any of those negative things, then you just put in a work permit and say, I'm going to work this job, and it gets approved by a command staff, and you're able to work it. There's still some restrictions, not being in uniform, can't work over 20 hours in a week, something like that, so it doesn't affect your normal job. Other agencies have different rules. LA County Sheriffs, you can't work off-duty, period. I can't speak to the Inglewood officer and what their rules were.
Right.
But my guess is he probably wasn't supposed to be working that. And he probably was like, I don't want any part of this. I'm going to get in trouble for even being here and let me leave. Is that the right answer? No. 100% no. He should have stayed there. He should have went up to the officers, identified who he was, what he was doing, provided his information on how to get a hold of him later on that night or another day, and been a good witness. Because that's his primary responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And I think he failed to do that. So, yeah, very disappointing when I hear fellow officer act like that or do something like that, and I have no way to justify that.
And then in his defense, I'll say that that officer did apparently go on to have a long career with Inglewood Police. He retired, I think, just a few years ago. I think he retired as a sergeant.
Good.
And so I think he did okay.
He learned his lesson, he made his mistake, and he moved on.
Yeah.
All right, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Is there anything else you remember from that night that was just odd about the scene, or anything jump out at you?
No, I mean, if you asked me the day after, I probably had a bunch, right?
Right.
I know we had a substantial amount of police presence there.
After the shooting?
Well, I think the presence was because of the fire department requesting assistance, and then me requesting additional units from being inside, because I could tell we were definitely overmanned.
Yeah, sure.
We were overmanned and did not have enough people to be able to disperse in a safe manner. And even if the shooting hadn't happened, which it did, we still hadn't found the fire department, right? So the mere fact that we had so many police officers, and yet we were still taking so much time to get this place cleared out, because not everybody was like, okay, I'm going to go home. It's like, yeah, no, I'm going to finish my cocktail, or I'm going to do this, or I don't need to go, etc. Whereas, I think if you or I are somewhere and something goes sideways and the police show up and say, hey, it's time to go, we've had a bad shooting out front, you need to go, I'd be like, get my wife, get my kid, whatever it is,
right,
and I'm scooting out. We didn't get a lot of that type of cooperation.
Yeah. All right, we did it. Well, thanks again for your time and filling in the gaps of just trying to figure out were cops there at the time or not. We're at a level with this case where kind of the obsession is just every little detail now people want to know about, including myself.
Right.
So it's nice to be able to get more insight into that. So